going to say this again. This is a dark technique. It's one that is used by big corporations in the healthcare space. They use it to sell pharmaceutical products. It's used to promote propaganda. It's used to start wars. Now, this is why I'm telling you that this is a dark technique. I'm very much stressing this right now. So for those who find So if you're struggling to sell life insurance, you are able to get in front of people, you sit in front of people, but for some reason you are not able to sell. Okay, so now this is a video for you. This video, I want you to watch the whole thing. I want you to watch the whole video, and at the end of this video, there's going to be a few nuggets, okay? There's going to be a few nuggets in the video where I'm going to share with you step-by-step techniques of how, tools and resources you can be able to use and mindsets that you can be able to use to go ahead and sell more policies. First off, let me just go ahead and start this. If you are somebody who's a weak-minded person, if you're someone who, believes the world is a bed of roses, if you're somebody who, for lack of a better word, is extra sensitive, this is not a video for you. Please go ahead and watch another video. Watch a cat video, watch a dog video, but please do not watch this video. I want to just give a full disclaimer. The tools and what I'm going to be sharing in this video is not, when I say this, it is not for everybody. It is not for everybody. And I do not condone 100% of it, but when I say it works, okay? But you have to have thick skin and you have to have a tough mind when you're going to go ahead and implement these techniques. If not, if you're somebody who, like I said, who's sensitive, please, again, I'm stressing this. I do not want anybody complaining or whatever it is. Go watch another video, okay? But let's go ahead and continue for those of you to stay, okay? First, let's understand that life insurance sales and any of the sales are not the same. The way you sell life insurance and the same way you sell solar and HVAC, it is absolutely not the same, because life insurance, I'm going to cover it in a little bit, the reason why life insurance is different, okay, but it is not the same. There are two types of reasons why people buy. I want you to understand this. There are two types of reasons why people buy, and the reason why I want you to understand the two types of reasons why people buy is when you understand the two types of reasons why people buy, you'll be able to understand why we go ahead and use this technique here, okay? All right, so there are two types of reasons why people buy, okay? Now, either people buy because they're moving away from pain or moving towards pleasure. This is one type of reason, okay? Moving away from pain or moving towards pleasure. What does that mean? For example, it could be if you are a marketer, you're trying to sell advertising services, your current customer is struggling with bad leads, and your product is to solve that pain by providing them with good leads, right? So you have customer A struggling, with lead generation or whatever it is, and your job is to your product is to help them fix their lead problem. So they have a pain and you're solving the pain. You're basically the doctor, right? Now, you can have another example, such as your product is weight loss, and your ideal client is somebody who's uncomfortable with your weight and the way that they look in the mirror, and they either want to be able to fit in a nicer dress or they want to get their partners to like them. Okay. Now, and so on. Okay. You get the gist for the most part. But with insurance, it's completely different. Okay. Because with insurance, your customer is not feeling any pain. Okay. Your customer is not feeling any pain. Prior to you, your life was fine. Prior to you showing up, they're perfectly fine. Okay. The last thing on their mind is insurance. Yet you want to get them to buy insurance. Think about this. The last thing on your customer's mind before you was insurance. They were not thinking about insurance. They had no interest in insurance. They didn't want to buy insurance. They were just like, They were not really thinking about it, right? So prior to everything was fine, all right? Especially when they don't either feel the need to move away from pain or towards pleasure, all right? So how do you do it? How do you sell insurance to somebody who was not looking for your product, was not really thinking about it, and life was perfectly okay? Or they probably already have insurance, right? They probably already have insurance through their job. They have insurance through the company. They have insurance through something somewhere. And your job is now you want to go ahead and sell them this. So how do you do it, right? You use a technique. This is a dark technique. I'm going to say this again. This is a dark technique. It's one that is used by big corporations in the healthcare space. They use it to sell pharmaceutical products. It's used to promote propaganda. It's used to start wars. Now, this is why I'm telling you that this is a dark technique. I'm very much stressing this right now. So for those weak-minded people that are here, please, I'm going to say this again. Go watch another video. I'm saying it again, and I'm saying it. Okay. You should start wars, so please be careful when you employ this in your sales practices, okay? Okay, it is purely manipulation. It is purely manipulative. So be very careful. I'm going to say so very careful. I think you should know this from a sales perspective. And I also think from a customer perspective, you should know these techniques because you want to know when somebody's employing these techniques on you so you can call them out on it. Okay. So now that I have warned you, All right. I have warned you. Emmanuel has warned you. All right. Let's go ahead now and let's go ahead and let me tell you what this technique is. Okay. So this is basically fear-based selling. Fear. You're selling it based off of fear. Fear, I mean, most of you know it. I mean, if they want to sell you something, they tell you about how, this is going to happen and blah, 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 blah. But I'm going to dive deeper as to how the technique work and the step-by-step processes that most people use to promote propaganda, and how you can employ that same technique to sell insurance or use it to avoid being sold to. Okay. So it's a concept of creating an imaginary enemy. Okay. There has to be, for this to work, you need to have an imaginary enemy. Okay. There has to be something that people will feel afraid of. There has to be an imaginary enemy, and your prospect is the hero. Okay. So there has to be an imaginary enemy, and they have to be the hero. Okay. Now, to use this technique, I'm going to use an acronym, and the acronym is called FEARS. 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 Okay. Now, the F stands for finding out what your prospect's object of affection is. Okay. What is your prospect's object of affection? So, for instance, let's say you are in the presence of a husband and a wife, right? Now, the fact that they're married and live together means they both each other's object of affection. But typically, men have a stronger need to protect the woman, right? I mean, it could be different, depends whatever your relationship is, but I'm not a relationship coach, so I'm not diving into that. But usually men feel the need to protect the woman. So hence she is the object of his affection. So boom, we have that figured out right there. Right? So it could be a spouse, a kid, a partner, a car, the feeling of inadequacies, and so on. You just need to find out something that they care so much about. Okay. Now, what you need to do is obviously fact find what they love and need to protect. The next thing you need to do is you need to make them envision. Okay, envision. All right. What I want you to do is I want you to make them envision that imaginary enemy or problem coming in and hurting their object of affection. So, for instance, make them imagine. Say, hey, John, listen. What would have you and Martha ever actually had that conversation about what would happen if you were to pass away? She got a call that you're not here tomorrow. Like, yeah, we haven't had that conversation. I'm like, okay, well, John, has anyone that you know ever passed away recently? Oh, yeah, lost my dad. Okay, so you lost your dad. Okay, so what was life like for them? Okay, so what was your life like for your mom when your dad passed away? Okay, so now, so do you get the gist here? You get the gist. You need to get them to envision. Okay, the key, very most important thing. They need to envision the object of the affection being hurt. It could be an example of them getting terminally ill, something to the family. It could be the enemy. It could be they passed away, and your family is drowning in debt. Okay, like for instance, John passes away, right? Say for instance, an example: John passes away, or his father passed away. Now, what happened to the mom? The mom was struggling. The mom was having to deal with the debt from having to pay for the medical bills. The mom was having to pay for the funeral expenses. The mom had to cover the mortgage, right? Now you understand. So that enemy, or multiple enemies in this case, which is debt, bills and all that stuff piling in, that is the enemy. You must understand that your prospect will not move. Okay, I'm going to say this again. They will not move unless they believe that there is an enemy. Okay. So this is the reason why seniors are easier to sell to, especially when you're selling falling expenses. This is why falling expenses is a very big seller, because for them, because it is, how I suppose, easier for them to envision because they are closer to heaven's door. Okay, they're close to heaven's door. You know what that means. And younger folks in the early 20s and 30s are a little harder because they feel like they have forever, right? If I have a 65-year-old man here and a 20-year-old man here, they're going to have different buying reasons, right? Because the 20-year-old is like, well, I don't have a wife. I don't have I don't have anything I care of. Because you have to understand is, if the 20-year-old has no object of affection, then it is very hard for the fears for the technique to work. For it to work, they need to have an object of affection, okay? And they need to be able to envision. So F and E must check, because if they don't check, you can't sell to them, right? So for instance, say you want to sell to a 20-year-old, right? You can be like, okay, so who do you love the most? Oh, I love my mom. Okay, so now what would happen if you were to, pass away for your mom? They'll be like, well, no, that's not going to happen because, my mom is, 60 something years old right now. This is where it's very important. I'm going to share with you a little technique for selling to younger people here. That is why younger folks, you don't want them to envision. You want them to remember. Key word here is remember. The reason why you want to get them to remember is this. Pay attention to this. 20-year-old mom. Okay, perfect. You'd be like, hey, listen. So let me ask you this question, Luke. Um, does anyone you know, did you ever know anybody that passed away before their parent? Yeah, I did. So what happened? What did the parents have to go through? Well, I mean, they had to, pay for, the burial, the funeral. They lost a kid. Yeah. Also, so was this someone that was close to you? Yeah. Okay, good. So now just imagine this. Imagine that your mom had to deal with the same thing if you were to pass away, right? Keyword is they need to remember. After they have remembered, have them remember when someone else in your family passed away. Once they remembered what life was like for them, then you want them to envision a family facing the same enemy. Keyword, with younger people, especially people who cannot find an object of affection, because if you cannot find an object of affection, then you need to make them remember. Okay, so if they have no object of affection, then you need to make them remember, right? Or remember what happens. And then you make them envision. Okay, once you make them envision, then ask them if they want your family to suffer the same fate. Okay, ask them here, do you want your family to suffer the same fate, right? Then once you've gone ahead and you remember, the key here is I want you to understand something. Your product does not matter. I've seen the trashiest insurance policy being sold to very healthy people. Okay, your product does not matter. We are strictly dealing with human psychology, and this is me basically teaching you how to use sales techniques in human psychology, be able to sell more of your product, close more deals, and get in front of more people. And if that's what you want to do, then these techniques are for you. Then again, like I said, you're very manipulative. So please be very cautious and be very careful as you employ these techniques in your business. Okay. But the next A is you want them to agree. Okay. You want them to agree. Okay. What do you want them to agree? You want them to agree that this imaginary enemy must be stopped. Okay. Remember, the goal is to give them a mission. You want them to agree. Hey, so John, you understand, right? It is very important, right, that we protect Martha from the bills that she will face and have to pay for if you were to pass away. Would you agree? Actually, yeah, you're right. So you would agree with me, right? You would agree with me right now that Martha's life without you is not just going to be the fact that, hey, she's struggling to pay bills or she's losing you, but not just losing you. She is going to be in debt. The reason, listen, when you use the FEARS technique, it is completely going to be uncomfortable. The whole scene and scenario must be uncomfortable. If anyone is comfortable, if you're comfortable and they're comfortable, you're not going to sell. Comfort is the killer of success. I want you to understand something. Comfort is a killer of success. Comfort is the enemy of sales. Your prospect, regardless of whatever you sell, must be uncomfortable. Because if they're comfortable, why would they move? Okay? Whenever people are comfortable, they do not act. That's why you need to understand this. Comfort is the enemy. I'm going to stress this again. Comfort is the enemy of success. Okay? Never, ever sell in a comfortable situation. Never, ever get your customer comfortable. Never. Okay? I'm saying this. I hate this. Most people are going to think of me as a bad person. I'm not a bad person. Just understand is this. I did not make the human brain. I did not make the human psychology. Right? But the reality is this, is I want to ask yourself this question is, if you're sitting in the room and the temperature is 72 degrees, everything's nice, it's good, you're under your blanket, why should you move? You don't move. Like when you get out of bed, what is the hardest part of your day? It's not really working. The hardest part of your day is getting out of bed because it is comfortable. When people are comfortable, they don't want to go. But imagine you got out of bed and it was when you woke up, it was 140 degrees hot. That was how hot it was. It was 140 degrees in your room. Would you get up? Yes. Let's imagine it was negative 58 degrees in your room. It's freezing cold. Would you move? Yes. You have to understand something is comfort keeps people stagnant. Discomfort makes people move. Okay? So you have to understand something is this technique is supposed to make sure that the room is uncomfortable. The goal is you do not want a comfortable room. You want an uncomfortable room. An uncomfortable room is where you make sales. Okay? People don't go to doctors when you're perfectly healthy. They go to doctors when you're almost dying and you're sick because you're uncomfortable. Understand that. Human psychology, we move away from pain, right? All right? And then again, now they're afraid of something. So now they are in pain. Okay? Now let's continue. Imagine an enemy must be stopped once they've agreed, and the consequences of fear of not stopping this enemy outweighs the sacrifice of stopping it. Then for R, you need them to realize, okay, this is where it's very important. They need to realize, okay, what do they realize? They realize that they can't stop it themselves. They cannot stop this enemy themselves. Okay, they can't do it by themselves. They cannot do it alone. All right, they cannot stop this enemy by themselves. They need help, and the help that they need, they are heroes. They need help, but in order for them to fully succeed in protecting others, okay, they need your product. The help they need is your product. The help they need is your product. I'm going to say it again. They need to realize that they cannot do it themselves. The help that they need is your product. Your product is the tool needed for them to achieve the goal of stopping this enemy. Then they need to see themselves defeating this enemy with your product. That's it. Okay, that's the S. S. Okay, so R realize, S is C. They need to see themselves defeating this enemy with your product, and that's it. And that's pretty much the tool. Once again, this is not 100% ethical way to sell. Okay, it is not. I'm going to say this again. That's the reason why most people understand this in sales, and the reason why most salespeople are not trusted is because most sales techniques are manipulative, and that's the reason why I'm telling you this. If you are a consumer listening to this, just understand, hey, I'm not saying this for you to feel bad. I'm saying this just understand, hey, if you are in an insurance sales technique and they're employing this on you, you're like, hey, I know what you're doing, man. You're using the FEARS, like the fears technique on me. It's not going to work, right? Or if you're a sales agent and you're using FEARS, the fears technique, and you're closing deals, good for you. But just make sure you're doing it the right way and you're actually giving them the good products. Please be very understanding and understand that people, most of the times, they want to be led, and don't lead them astray just to fill up your bank account. Okay? I'm just saying this. I'm not saying this in any way, whatever it is. I'm saying this because I understand human psychology. I've studied human psychology. I know why people act. I know why people move. But at the end of the day, I just want to make sure that you can use human psychology to make yourself a millionaire, but just understand that you want to be doing the best practices for people. That's just all I can say. I'm not saying this for, whatever it is. I'm just trying to help. All right. So you will sell a lot, but remember, always tie the sale down. Always tie the sale down. Ask them how they're able to justify making a purchase. It's very important. You have to understand something. Is people are buying based off of emotion, right? They're buying because they're uncomfortable. But what happens when they get comfortable? What happens when they had this feeling that, oh man, when I pass away, when they pass away, Martha's going to struggle. And then now it's been 3 weeks, it's been a month, it's been a month and a half, and the bill comes, right? They get charged, right? Why should they make that payment? Because now they're not uncomfortable anymore. You have to understand discomfort. When we move away from pain and now we're feeling better, the pain doesn't last anymore. So now why should we move? Why should we act? This is where it's very important for you to understand that this is where you need to actually step in and use logic. Okay, so this is where you want to go ahead and remember, emotions don't last. And once you leave, they will come back to reality. So ensure to have them use logic to justify the purchase, or they will cancel. Just an FYI. So how do you have them use logic? Just ask them a question. Hey, listen, Samantha or Luke, John, how are you able to justify to yourself making this purchase? Because in a month, I'm very upfront. As you guys know, I'm not trying to be liked. I'm not trying to be nice to people, because if you don't know me, I don't know you. So there's no point in me pretending. I was telling them, listen, hey, John, how are you able to justify paying $200 a month for this? Knowing that there's a possibility that you will die or not die, or whatever it may be. There's a possibility that this may not pay out if you, let's say it's a term, if you live longer than a term. How are you able to justify? Because, I want them to understand what you're getting into. Like I said, it's the main thing is you're using the FEARS technique to get them to move. Then once you get them once you use the fears technique to get them to buy, you need to get them to justify. Okay? You use the fears to get them to buy, but you need to get them to justify. How are you able to justify this purchase? And if they cannot justify it, then they don't keep the policy. Reason being is if they don't see what I see, yes, I got them to take action, but I know they're going to cancel, because if they cannot justify it while I'm there, they won't be able to justify it when I'm not there. That's just basically it, guys. Hopefully you liked the video. Just subscribe to the channel. Like I said, I discuss a lot of marketing, sales techniques, how to sell, how to market. And I'm going to be dropping nuggets, obviously, as the videos and techniques get better. That's pretty much it, guys. And let me know what you think in the comments. Love it or dislike it. I'm very intrigued and interested in your feedback. And yeah, that's for all.